at the last second, kind of like a Marvel movie where they just start shoving things in at the very last second because they're like, oh, we forgot this plot. Welcome back to the Grand Slammy Tennis Channel video. Today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to review each episode 1 to 2 minutes of the Breakpoint series. I didn't want to do it because I think a lot of people have reviewed it, but I finally saw it and I was a little disappointed in the overall story structure. So I'm going to get into my thoughts. I'm going to read the description of each episode on Netflix, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts, 1 to 2 minutes, 30 seconds. At least for me, I thought it was disappointing. We heard a lot of the same stuff from the same person. I'm not saying they were the same clips, but it was pretty much the same sound bite, so it made the flow of each episode very hard to follow, in my opinion.
Yes?
I don't get it.
Though aside from the storylines, aside from everything else, I thought that the production value was top notch. I mean, to be expected with somebody like Netflix. Same with Full Swing. The first 5 episodes, the production off the chart. So here we go. For the first episode, it's Belonging. It's Nick Kyrgios makes an impact on Wimbledon's perfectly manicured courts, while Ajla Tomljanovic fights to claim a place in the sport's top echelon. This was the one that I had the most problems with.
Houston, we have a problem.
Belonging itself should have just been about Nick Kyrgios. His Wimbledon tournament, start to finish. All of the drama with Tsitsipas, all of the drama during the final, all of the drama in his outside world, all of that should have just been in the first one, period. I think that should have just been the very first episode of everything, because the name doesn't fit. Tomljanovic's story doesn't fit the title, and I really feel like they were trying to make it work, and it just didn't.
Baby, you know that's not how this works.
So then the Saints and Sinners one, the next episode, and it's the stars seem to align for Ons Jabeur as she rides her early season momentum into Wimbledon, where Kyrgios aims for his first Grand Slam singles title. That's the one with all the Tsitsipas drama, and I think that could have just been in the first one, like I've said before. Right, it should have just been about Ons Jabeur, because her storyline, being the first Arab woman, being the first African woman to make it to a major Grand Slam singles title, is enough to play and be its own story. It's enough. Like, people love that. America loves that stuff because we're a melting pot. I think the first episode could have just been like 55 minutes and added all of the Kyrgios stuff with this one, because I felt like it was repetitive. I just heard a lot of things from Tomljanovic and very little from Kyrgios, and he was basically the center point, and then you had this weird storyline with Ons Jabeur. So I think they should have just focused on Ons. And then this one is super strange. I don't know what they were trying to do here, but this is where the flow just really blew my mind. So this is a fairy tale in New York. After Serena Williams announces that this US Open will conclude her tennis career, Tomljanovic manages mixed emotions ahead of facing living legend. So this is what I mean. That was such a big match for Tomljanovic, and it was such a big moment in tennis, because you have a legend who is leaving the sport of tennis after so many years, after bringing so much to it and being kind of a staple. She has announced that she's going to leave. I don't think you needed to have it previously with Wimbledon and have this, and then you sprinkled in Tiafoe and you sprinkled in Iga, foreshadow what the next episode was going to be, but it missed the mark. So I think that it was just a lot of Tomljanovic in the first 3 episodes, and that's great. I love it. I felt like they kind of lost the plot in Fairy Tale in New York.
Bruh.
The next episode is Under Pressure, and it's 2 very different up-and-coming stars on the court. America's Frances Tiafoe and Polish Iga Swiatek push to realize their potential to the US Open. I kind of felt that this title, this description of the episode, did a disservice to Iga Swiatek, because she was so dominant all year. I mean, all year she was dominant. So she wasn't up and coming. She had already arrived, right?
I have arrived.
It didn't hold the same plot as Francis Tiafa, who is actually up and coming. That story could have held its own. We didn't even need to add Iga because she was already number 1 at the time, and I think as of right now, had been at number 1 for 65 weeks. So she was already there. So this is the one that really bothers me the most, I will say. So it's the very last episode. It's one last chance, and it's the season culminates at the ATP and WTA finals, where top-ranked players Taylor Fritz and Belarusian powerhouse Sabalenka fight for redemption. Look, I like Taylor Fritz, I really do, but trying to fit him in the very last minute was dumb. It was stupid. You didn't need to fit him in. It could have just been about Ariana Sabalenka. So take Taylor Fritz completely out of this episode. You didn't even need to have him. It was stupid. I thought it was dumb. I didn't really understand his storyline because he did nothing of the significance. You know? And that sucks. That sucks for Taylor because I'm an American and I always root for the American, and I think Taylor Fritz has untapped potential. But what really bothered me the most about this episode is that they didn't even show any of the actual final of the WTA final. And everybody knows who's in tennis understands that Ariana Sabalenka has had horrible service woes. I mean, just they're terrible. Her serve was absolutely terrible. I don't even know what that was. Her mental game sucked too. All of it. Horrendous. But then she comes back, and during the final with Garcia, she gets into the most epic service dueling battle. Like, I mean, it was awesome.
Just when I think you couldn't possibly be any dumber, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself.
I think that plot of her serve being so bad and all of her work that she has put in to make it better, and then it coming to the WTA finals and really showing, even though she lost, is still way more amazing than her beating Iga. She's beatable, and and I get that is kind of what they were going for with Ariana Sabalenka, like triumph, but I think the real triumph was her overcoming the worst parts of her game and it being such an asset during the WTA finals. I think that when Caroline Garcia said no, they were just like, okay, well, we're not going to be in this at all. And the little bits that they showed, it was just like the top part of her face, because it just seemed like out of spite, we're not doing an episode on you, so we're not even going to show it.
Well, that's where I see things just a little differently. Contract or no, I will not bow to any sponsor.
The Under Pressure episode was so terribly bad with Iga that we had to throw Iga in at the last second. Kind of like a Marvel movie where they just start shoving things in at the very last second because they're like, oh, we forgot this plot, we forgot this thing. And so I think that that's what it was. Again, I don't even think you needed Taylor Fritz. Get him out of there. We don't even need him. So to wrap up this review, usually in post-production you have a lot of voices, a lot of things that you want to do, a lot of B-roll, a lot of good stuff. And I think the post-production team, they got into a rabbit hole with the B-roll and the way they wanted it to go, because I think that they wanted it to flow one episode after another. And I don't think that they needed to do that by foreshadowing anything leading into the next episode. I think that they could have just focused on one participant, one subject, and moved on, and it would have flowed very nicely into the next. And because it was really confusing to follow. I thought it was really confusing, and I'm media literate. Leave your review in the comments down below. Like and subscribe. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. Again, I say this at the end of every video, but I am so excited. So I'll see you guys later.